Welcome back, everybody, to another live Q&A with Joe Everest, the fence expert. So glad you guys could join us. Tell you what, the plan for today is to talk about the Stay and Seal Experts University, the Mr. Fence Academy, and then answer any questions and answers that you guys might have. As you guys are jumping in here, be sure to let me know you're here in the comments. It tells me how many people are here, but doesn't tell me who they are. And I'd sure like the opportunity to say hi to you guys. And like I said, answer any and all of your questions. Also, let's do this. So if we got a chance to say hi in person there, either at the Mr. Fence Academy or at the Stay and Seal Experts University, drop that in comments as well. As a recap, so last week was a bit of a whirlwind. So I flew over to Nashville first on Wednesday, and I spoke to the Mr. Fence Academy Summit that Sean King puts on. And I tell you what, so I had the opportunity, one, to speak, which is always an honor, but two, I had the opportunity just to be a fly on the wall, right? To kind of sit in the back of the room and soak in the knowledge that these guys were putting out. So like I said, Sean does a great job in putting on events. He brings in, here's the thing. I'm not tooting my own horn when I say this. He brings in experts in their field, right? So we got to listen to his business manager, his business coach. We got to listen to his web expert. I talked on marketing and social media in general. Fence King Dan Blank wrapped it up talking about his. So he was talking about marketing as well, but more like his physical marketing materials, whereas focused mainly on video, because obviously that's something I'm passionate about. So I had a great time. And then, of course, after that, I got to have dinner with the guys and hang out for a little bit afterwards. We had a little bit of bourbon and some cigars and just talked fence. That's the thing is, so Cannon, I was watching one of Cannon's videos the other day, and he hit the nail on the head. He said, isn't it so nice that when you're surrounded by a group of people that all want to talk about the same thing, right? We're all interested in talking about fence and about our fence businesses and basically how to make them better. The struggles that we face and hear how other people have their experience with facing those and what they've done to overcome them. It's a really good time, so I was pretty fortunate to talk with those guys on Wednesday. Thursday was the Stay and Seal Experts University, the staining portion. So again, I got to be a fly on the wall and listen to Caleb talk about kind of running a staining business 101. And then I got to listen to Matt Warner from from Empire Fence and Net, but also My Salesman. So Rachel really runs that train, and Matt's pretty transparent about that. So Matt owns a company, but Rachel's that train's conductor. Anyway, Matt got up and really spoke to company culture, running a larger business, and really what it takes in the mindset you need to be in to run a business of that size. To summarize, and I'm not going to take Matt's thunder, but basically, burn the boats behind you. Don't leave yourself escape routes. So then I talked about video marketing. Well, that was going on. Kenny Dugan was running basically a staining masterclass. And I was pretty disappointed I didn't get to see the presentation, but he and I got a chance to talk a little bit after hours and really got some good knowledge from Kenny. I appreciate that a lot. Let me check in with you guys real quick. Chris Steele, talk about people I met at, Mr. Fence Academy. Chris is always good people. What is up, Chris? I'm glad you're here. Alexander wants to know, what's your favorite hole you've ever dug? Favorite hole, man. I'm hard pressed to think of a favorite hole I've ever dug. None of them are fun, to be honest with you. I don't know, Alexander. I'll be honest with you. I don't know that I have a favorite hole. None of them are all that great, to be honest with you. I'm trying to think of a memorable story about digging a fence hole. So, but none of them are my favorite. So they usually revolve around hitting unmarked utilities. It's usually good to get the old blood pumping. Hit a gas, a 2-inch gas main that's not marked. That gets exciting real quick and in a hurry, right? They send out all the all the professionals for that when they send out the fire and the EMS and the police block off the roads, and you get to have an interesting time. But that'd be maybe my most memorable. I don't have a favorite hole, Alexander. I'm sorry. That's like maybe that's the first question I haven't actually been able to answer. I really apologize for that. Hold one, guys. Wifey is FaceTiming me, and this wasn't even rehearsed. So I'm gonna mute you guys real quick just in case and let her know. Well, here you can't just FaceTime without saying hello to everybody. So everybody, say hello to Josie, our littlest one. So, all right, everything okay?
Yes, I was just calling you because Jackson is having a meltdown.
Uh-oh.
He thinks his fishing rod is not a real one.
Okay. So Jackson has a fishing rod. It's a small fishing rod. So maybe he's caught on to the fact that it's not as big as everyone else's fishing pole. Well, we can certainly address that later. All right. Want to make sure everything was okay.
Okay, bye.
All right. Everybody say bye to Josie and Taylor. Bye, babe. Love you.
Bye. Love you.
Bye. Oh, there's Jackson. Hey, Jackson, say hi to everybody. You're on YouTube right now. No, don't stick your tongue out. All right, I gotta go. Everybody's asked. All right, bye. Sorry about that, guys. Every now and then, family time comes up. What is up, Brandon, with Utah Deck and Fence? What is happening? All right, so I just caught myself. So I'm not in one of the videos. Some of the videos, a pretty common thread in there is that too many YouTubers out there say what is up. So I'm going to try to make a concerted effort not to say what is up. So we'll say, welcome back, Brandon. How are you? Welcome back, Jeff. Hey, Joe, it's nice meeting you in Nashville. It's great meeting you as well, Jeff. Learned a lot. Staying has always added value to my fence company. I agree, Jeff. If you're in the Staying Steel Experts University Facebook page, I posted a video there this morning. We were pre-staining a bunch of cedar materials. So we had some cedar pickets and rails that we were staining. Of course, Staying Steel Experts shade of walnut. We have a dip tank that we stain the pickets. We pre-stain the cedar material. That way, now today is a beautiful day in the Ozarks in southwest Missouri. I think high is 70, partly sunny. I mean, you couldn't ask for much better weather in March. It snowed all the way to May before here. So anyway, any days like this we're thankful for. But it could be snowing or sleeting or raining, and we've got an indoor facility that we pre-stain with now. So but I agree with you, Jeff. Pre-staining and staining in general has added a tremendous amount of value to our business. I'm passionate about it. I really am. That if you're a fence company that installs wood fence and you want to add value to your offerings, you offer staining and sealing. Pre-stain if you can, but if you stain on site, we've pre-stained on site for probably a solid 2 years before we finally have the facility we have now where we can do some indoor pre-staining. But I agree, Jeff. Jeff, it was great meeting you in Nashville. Ashley Roth, what is up? So if Caleb is like Mr. Staying Steel Expert, Ashley is Mrs. Staying Steel Expert. What is up, Ashley? Ashley, I'd like to say personally, I appreciate your hospitality. Ashley, Caleb kind of, how do we want to say this? Caleb maybe organizes the event or has the ideas for the event, but Ashley is the driving force behind these events. I think Caleb would probably agree with me on that statement as well. I don't think that's any secret. So, Ashley, I appreciate your hospitality. I really appreciate you guys having me out there. Of course, on Saturday, you guys will see this coming up. On Saturday, I went out to Staying Steel Experts and did a facility tour with them. And Ashley's daughter made cookies. And if there's one thing I remember from my trip to Nashville last time doing a facility tour at Staying Steel Experts, this little girl can cook. She's a really fantastic cook. She made, let's see, I want to get this right because she's not going to be happy. It's chocolate chip sugar cookies, I believe. Anyway, hello, Ashley. Tell your daughter thank you again for the cookies. Speaking of Staying Steel Experts, what is up, Mandy? Mandy was there as well. Mandy's like the Staying Steel Experts marketing guru. She's also does some of their sales and consulting, technical support, that sort of thing. But Mandy and I had several mini talks. We had several talks on the subject of marketing and everything like that. It's always good talking to other marketing minded people. Yeah. So Mandy, what? Oh, I stopped myself. Welcome back. There we go. Welcome back, Mike. Hey, Joe, Quikrete website shows 4 bags of concrete for a 12-inch hole for a 4x4 post. Sounds excessive. I'm thinking about 1 bag of concrete first, fill the rest with compacted crushed gravel. Thoughts? Yeah, so it depends how deep the hole is. 4 bags. I mean, yeah, it depends how deep that hole is going to be. So for a 4x4 post for an 12-inch wide hole, I mean, I would think 2 bags probably. So we use, well, for a 4-inch, yeah, so 12-inch hole, yeah, 2 bags is what we'd go with on that. Now that's digging it. We like to go close to 30 inches. 24 is a minimum. We'd like to get closer to 30. You could add crushed gravel. I would just do straight up 2 bags of Quikrete rather than trying to worry about separating out or getting a separate load of gravel as well, crushed gravel. Of course, as I always say, there's always more than one way to build a fence. I mean, I'm not saying it won't work. I'm just saying what way I would probably do it. So, yeah, I would call it 2 bags of Quikrete or Sackcrete or whatever you're wanting to use. Welcome back, Colin. Now, Colin, as you probably already heard, I'm staying away from the term "what's up," so because I've been told too many YouTubers do it, and I'm not getting trapped into that. Colin, welcome back. Alexander wants to know what's the digging like in Missouri. We got rocks. Of course, everybody's got rocks. Well, most everybody's got rocks. It's funny. So we were talking about this last week. So I did the Ask the Expert live Q&A from St. Cecilia University last week. And one of the things we're talking about is everybody's got rocks, except for the guys that don't. And the guys that have rocks complain about having rocks. The guys that don't have rocks complain about not having rocks. Just in case in point, a question came through saying, they, for a 6-foot privacy fence, I believe they dig 3 foot deep. The problem is they don't have any rocks. So maybe you'll have to go 4 foot deep because the fence keeps leaning. Doesn't have that structural support. The ground in Missouri is rocky. So we've got chunk rock. We don't have much clay. It's a pretty decent dirt mixture. I mean, there's some clay. It depends where you're at, of course. Not a lot of clay, mainly just dirt and rocks. Chunk rock, anything basketball size and smaller, typically. If you get very much further south from where we are here in Springfield, around Christian County, Stone County is called that for a reason. They've got more ledge rock down there, and that's not too fun. Typically, if we're doing steel posts, we'll have to core drill into and set into the rock if it's a big ledge rock, and if we end up doing that will be the strongest post on the batch, I guarantee you. Welcome back, Mike C. What is up? Can you describe the jig for setting picket heights along the top rail? Thanks. Yeah. So, Mr. Fence Tools, and understand, I don't get a commission. I'm not sponsored by Mr. Fence Tools in any way. But they have a tool that sets your top height. So we go for a 6-inch reveal. And so what we would do is you'd set, using this tool, the straightaway is what they call it. You would nail up your first picket with a 6-inch reveal, and then at the next post, 8 feet away, 8 foot or less, you would have your next picket at 6 inches. This tool, it looks like J channel, really. It's a solid steel. It sits right on top, so it gets you a nice top edge. And you'd make sure your top of your pickets hit the top of this straightaway, plumb them up, nail it up, and you're good. So Mr. Fence Tool sells it. It's called Straightaway. We used a version of that tool for quite a long time, built out of aluminum. It was big and clunky, and it accomplished the same thing. So we actually, we purchased a couple Straightaways from Mr. Fence, paid full price because it's worth every penny. Yeah. So I hope that. So describing the jig, it's really just a piece of J channel. Let's do this. So depending on where, let's see. Let's do this. Let me say hello one more time, and then we'll do a screen share over to Mr. Fence Tools, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. Chocolate chip sugar cookies. That's what I thought. They were the best. Ashley, tell her thank you again for me. She is an incredible cook. The whole Roth family is just incredibly accommodating, and I tell you what, Caleb and Ashley are doing things right over there. All right, so bear with me, because keep in mind, I am a fence guy. I'm not a technology guy, but we're going to try this together. I've messed this up a couple times, but I think I'm on it now. All right, so we're gonna go here. We're gonna go share screen. We're gonna share a Chrome tab, Mr. Fence Tools. Make sure that's working. There we go. All right, so right here, the straightaway is the tool I was talking about. Let's see if we can get this a little bit bigger. So what this is, like I said, it's a piece of J channel. Or what I would say, it's not J channel, but I picture J channel. So the top of this sits right on the top of your pickets. So you would have one picket that sits right here in the beginning, another picket nailed up. Well, and they actually use dummy pickets nailed to a 2x4, which is actually better than our method anyway. But you would have another picket at the end here, whether it's a dummy picket or an actual nailed up picket. And so as long as these two pickets are 6-inch reveal, every picket along this line will be 6-inch reveal. So yeah, we've done strings before in the past. When I was a kid, that's actually how I was brought up and trained, was using string lines. And I don't know. I mean, most of the time it works. I'm not going to say it doesn't work. It does. There's a bit more setup work involved, and on windy days, the strings can be a little bit obnoxious to try to keep track of. If you get one picket that's a little bit taller than the rest, it'll raise that string line up and could throw your top line off. So this straightaway tool solves for that. And like I said, I'm not sponsored by Mr. Fence Tools. I pay full price for his stuff, but I think it's worth every penny. So that's the jig we would use, that we do use, called the straightaway. MrFenceTools.com. Pretty easy to find them. Yeah. All right. So we talked about the Mr. Fence Academy. We talked about the Zanesville Experts University Thursday, which is the staying portion. On Friday, there's kind of a joint operation, right? We had Mr. Fence show up and do a fencing demonstration. So they built some wood fence and vinyl fence. They actually demonstrated the installation process of dry packing concrete. I tell you what, I'm a believer in it. I'd watched Sean's videos in the past, and I mean, obviously it seemed to work. But as human nature, I'm kind of a skeptical person in general. So it took me sitting there and watching it. And actually, me and Cannon Jackson Fence Company, we tried to pull one of these things up out of the ground. He and I both tried to pull one of these things out of the ground, and it was not coming. They're setting 4x8 treated pine posts in the ground. And these things were not coming up. Like they were set and it was done. So I'm a believer now of the dry packing method. So we'll probably end up doing a video on that, on the dry packing method. I'd like to show it to you guys. Right now we're doing wet sets. Now here's the thing. All right, before the comments light up, you guys notice I got a new thermos? One of these insulated, what do they call these? Vacuum insulated stainless thermos. So I did that because I got tired of having to say not a sponsor. I just got thirsty. So anyway, so did a fencing demonstration. So we're talking about wet set versus dry set. We wet set. And I understand this is a very large debate. If I were to categorize, top 10 comments I get in the YouTube video comments, setting techniques is it's got to be number one. If not, I don't even know. If not number one, it'd be number two. But I can't think of something that gets more comments. The theme of the comment more than concrete setting or how to set. You have guys talk about dry setting, which again, like I said, I was skeptical until I watched it, and then now I'm a believer. Wet set, which is what we do right now. So we'll mix the concrete, wet set it directly into the hole. Another suggestion in the comments we get a lot is packed gravel. Some guys say pea gravel. Some guys say, more like a chat. And then there's a group in the chat, in the comments, that firmly believe that you just pack dirt back around it because that's what they did with telephone poles for how many years, and it worked out well for them. Now, a lot of these comments come in on the videos I do specifically about setting. Makes sense. Usually about the foam. quite a bit of hate for the foam, and maybe hate's the wrong word. Skepticism about using foam products to set fence posts. And I understand it. So let's talk about pros and cons of using foam. Again, to be clear, we wet set concrete right now. Likely we'll be looking at dry setting. The reason we're looking at that is it could cut a return trip. Like anything under, I don't know, say 200, 250 feet. I really think you could, as long as there's not a bunch of removal, it's not crazy. As long as the job site's fairly prepped, I think you could dig, set, and nail that up in a day. I'd love to get Sean's feedback on that, Mr. Fence. On now, so one thing Mr. Fence is going to bring up is so they only talk in terms of panels, right? They don't talk in terms of feet. So we'll need to do a little bit of a little conversion on that. But I'd be interested to hear how many sections they do a day per crew, dry setting and nailing on a day. But that's a benefit of dry set. Quick set will yield a higher PSI on day 2. Now the dry set is going to suck up and suck out all the moisture in the surrounding soil. So eventually it does cure to a similar PSI, probably not as strong as wet set. Yeah. Anyway, but so foam, the one benefit of using foam though, guys, that I can see is that you're not, if it's a job site that doesn't have water available. Now I'm talking most residential, even new builds, by the time we get there to build fence, there's water available. So we're talking commercial projects, typically large commercial that either water isn't available on site. If we're talking about like a utility tower, if we're talking about like a lay down lot, just an asphalt lot where they lay down material storage, that sort of thing. There's usually not water available, or just larger projects around perimeters where it's just not feasible to get water on the hole. We have to contract in water, potable water. So, and you would think that water wouldn't be that expensive, but let me tell you, water can be incredibly expensive. So when we're talking about benefits of foam over concrete, one, the foam doesn't require water. It's an all-in-one. It also weighs significantly less. I think it weighs, in the last testing we did, I want to say the package was 4 pounds and it covered 2 holes. So 2 pounds per hole, as opposed to, if we're talking about 2 80-pound bags, 160 pounds per hole, guys carrying that around the job site. Yeah, I mean, it's less messy. You don't have as much of the just the fly ash and the concrete dust making a mess. I don't know. I mean, I guess foam makes a mess though too. If you get this foam on you, it'll absolutely make a mess. Get it on your clothes or shirt. Ask my wife Taylor; she'll tell you that foam does make a mess, and when it gets on you, it does not come off. I mean, if it gets on your skin, it'll come off eventually, but it's not coming out of clothes. So it could be messy as well. But I really think, but what got me onto the subject of foam is telephone poles. Now, a lot of the large utilities, municipal utilities, that are putting in these huge utility poles, the big transmission lines, that sort of thing, are moving to a foam application, are moving to a foam product for the installation of these poles. I got to thinking about that. And then one day we had a guy come in, buy material from us, and he actually manufactures. He's one of the companies that manufactures the fiberglass utility poles. It's kind of an odd ordeal, maybe not odd, just unique. He lives in Southwest Missouri, but the company is actually based out of Canada. Anyway, they make these large fiberglass utility poles. And he was asking me, he said, "Do you still install with concrete?" I said, "Yeah, I sure do." So you got to stop. You got to be done with that. That's yesteryear's technology. When we're talking about utility poles, we're only doing foam because it's a high strength. When it gets done, the compression strength is incredibly high. It's not going to move. It's not going to rot. It's not going to crumble, that sort of thing. And actually, interesting fact with the foam, if you pull up a post, you have to dispose of the foam. They recommend you run that foam through a shredder or a chipper because the foam won't break down in the landfill. So they say you're supposed to run it through a chipper to get to smaller foam sizes before you dispose of it, just because it won't. The degradation period is something like 1,000 years. It's out there. Anyway, I think it's good technology. I really do. And we can talk about that in the chat, because that's usually one of the most common pieces of feedback is, concrete is a tried and true technology, which is true. I agree. But we've always got to be innovating, or at least testing innovation, right? We've always got to be looking for improvements in efficiency, where I think if we've got team members that are hauling around 2-pound bags versus, 2 80-pound bags of Sakrete, Quikrete, whichever brand you pre-packaged concrete, I got to think there's greater efficiencies there. Of course, bags take up a lot less space. So instead of pallets of concrete, we're talking about boxes of foam. It's something I'm interested in, and we'll continue to test. Now, is it there today? Quite possibly. So if you guys watch the video, we did a comparison where we gave Sitka Pro Select a second chance. We also used Post Lock, which is a brand of this foam. And then as a control, we set 2 posts with Sakrete, with prepackaged concrete. So we'll be building fence on that. Now that the weather's nicer, we'll be getting more of that building content for you guys. So we'll see. We're going to build fence on it. We're going to let it sit and stand and hang out in the weather, and we'll see how well the foam lasts long term. But guys, I'm telling you now, okay, the other holdback on the foam is that it is more expensive. So if a bag of prepackaged concrete, if you buy it in bulk, I think it's around $3.50, $3.25 a bag. The bags of foam are $9, $9.50 a bag ish. I mean, each brand's a little bit different, so it is significantly more expensive. So if we're at call it $3.50 a bag, so we're at $7 a post for 2 bags of Quikrete or prepackaged concrete versus $9.50. So you're $2.50 more per post. But like I said, if you're in a situation where you have to contract in water, the contract cost is much more than $2 a post. So at that point, you're at a savings. Where I really see it shining, we actually purchased some, and both those products we purchased. We didn't ask for sponsorships. We didn't ask for a free product, but we went ahead and bought more of the Post Lock product because I can see it shining in a repair situation because it's set up ready to go in 15 minutes. You can nail on this post. You set a 4x4 8, or we prefer a Postmaster steel post, but it's ready to go in 15 minutes. So if you've got a repair where you're just replacing a couple posts, or you're adding a stiffener post for a rotted post, whatever the situation, if you're setting a post and you need to use it pretty quick, the foam really shines in that situation. So we bought some. We're going to hold on to it for situations such as that. Welcome back, Kenny Dugan. Hey, Joe, always good seeing you in Tennessee after event roundtable is extremely educational. I agree. So if you guys tuned into round 2 of the live Q&A, you already know Kenny. You've already met him, whether in person or virtually through the live Q&As. I'm telling you what, guys, Kenny Dugan's one of these guys that he has such a wealth of information that just being in proximity to him makes you smarter. I am telling you that. Just having conversations with him, you walk away more intelligent. He and I we had some good conversations. We also had some good conversations around the dinner table. Kenny, I appreciate you a lot. I consider you a friend, and so I appreciate your friendship. If you guys know Kenny Dugan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you guys are in the staining and sealing world, and you're not on the Facebook page, the St. Saul Experts University page, jump on there. Kenny's always sharing incredibly helpful information. I really like what he's up to. All right. Okay. So Colin says they average 1.5 to 2 sections per man hour. So, all right. So let's do the math. So if you got 3-man crews, now they run 4 10-hour days. So you got 10 hours times, 3-man crew. Now you're not actually going to have 30 man hours on site. You're going to have some travel time, but you call it so you can do about 45 sections a day. They're on average 8. So you guys are doing 350 to 400 foot a day. That's incredible. So watching the Mr. Fence guys build out those demo sections, I don't doubt that in the least. They built that fence while teaching us, or while teaching everyone the techniques and showing and taking time to explain. They built it. It was probably 80 feet of fence just in a matter of minutes. Maybe not minutes. That's an exaggeration, but really quick. Kenny Dugan's got a challenge. Here's a challenge. Shuffle picket so you don't have matching knot holes side by side. As a stainer, this drives me crazy. That and no space between fence and house for plastics. I agree. I agree, Kenny, and I'm glad you brought this up. The space between house and fence is massive. So we typically leave about 1.5 inches between a house. After staining a few of these, it starts to click. So typically, what we'll do is we'll stack about 3 pickets. So 1.5 inches, 2 inches, depends on how big the stack or how thick your pickets are. But we'll stack 3, and then we'll butt up to that. I mean, it's still going to be tight enough of a gap to the house that pets aren't going to get out, stray dogs aren't going to get in, but it leaves plenty of space to get plastic in there so that it makes it easier on you guys, on staining guys, to come in and stain this behind the fence guys. Great point, Kenny. I like that so much. The knot holes thing is also, you got to look at your pickets. So this is always a challenge not to get knot holes right by each other. I mean, or right next to each other. Because that's the thing. These things are cut, as all in one stack, right? So one stack is typically simply just sections of that tree. So you got knot hole, knot hole, knot hole, knot hole as this thing's cutting. So as you're stacking, you got 3 or 4 pickets with knot holes on the side stacked up next to each other. The challenging part is to be able to recognize that and shuffle those pickets in and out away from each other. That way, hopefully you don't get 2 of the same looking pickets next to each other. It's absolutely a better look. Kenny, thank you so much. Appreciate you bringing value. Wade Tagney, it was great meeting you as well. So, hello, Joe. Great meeting you in Tennessee. Hope you're heading to Lincoln in June. Yep, absolutely am. So, we're going to talk about that. We can talk about that today as well. So, it's actually in Waverly. It's just outside Lincoln, Waverly, Nebraska. Matt and his crew are having everyone up for an AFA fencing school, fence installation school. I am absolutely going. We're going to take some of our team members up there. And we're gonna learn from the best and try to pick up some tips and tricks and maybe make ourselves a little bit more efficient. I'd actually really like to see Matt's facility as well. He touched on it in his talk. I would really like to see his facility and see what they're up to there. Get some ideas again for making a fabrication and production shop more efficient. I will absolutely be there. So Wade, it was great meeting you. Wade and I knew Wade exactly when I saw or when we were introducing each other. We're introducing ourselves, and Wade introduced himself as my father's son. Wait, I know that name. My father's son. I know that name. So Wade, it was really good meeting you in person. Mike says, so the dry setting concrete method is simply dumping in regular prepackaged concrete and compacting. Yeah, compacting is the tough part. So it's not simply dumping in a bag. Is putting in part of the bag, compacting, putting in part of a bag, compacting, putting part of a bag and compacting, making sure, obviously, you're checking plumb in both directions. But what you're trying to do, and the tip here from Sean, is you don't use the flat or the blunt end of your rock bar. You're using the pointed end of your rock bar, because what you want to do, you want to drive into the concrete, force that concrete out, both against the post and against the ground, the whatever soil you're setting to. And then as you remove that rock bar, more of the concrete mix fills in that gap, and over and over and over and over and over again. I'm telling you what, I was skeptical. I'll be completely honest. I was skeptical of the process. I'd seen the videos, still skeptical until I was sat there and watched it happen. And I tried to pull one of these things out by hand. Like I said, me and Cannon both tried to pull this thing out together, and it didn't budge. And they've got video of it. Sean's crew had the video of people trying to pull this thing out of the ground, sword in the stone style, and it's not happening. So, yep, Roger, we're live. You better believe it. So, what is up, Roger Bentoncourt? Caught myself again. I keep reverting back to what is up. Welcome back, Roger, is what I meant. All right, so on Friday was a fence installation school. So something that was also so on Friday it was raining. Now, actually, in Nashville on Friday it rained. It poured that evening. Saturday most of the day it rained and poured off and on. Sunday it was raining. There were flash flood warnings as I was leaving. I was starting to get nervous that I wasn't going to be able to get out of there because some of these rivers were getting a little bit high, a little bit close to the interstate. But was able to come back home. Friday it rained, and then so it rained while this fence was being installed. Stopped raining for a brief moment that afternoon, and and Caleb went ahead. I mean, he made a commitment. He was going to show fence guys how to stain a fence. Now, this was a pressure treated pine fence, stained the day it was put up, and this thing, I want to say he said it was like 46%, 40 some odd percent moisture content. Now, we look for 12 to 15% moisture content before we stain. So 40%, anything 45, 46, whatever, 40, whatever percent is soaking wet. I mean, there's just not a lot of room for the stain to go in. But stained it anyway. I mean, this wasn't a finished product that was for a customer. It was literally a demonstration. So he wasn't demonstrating really the penetrating powers of the stain. He was really just trying to show guys, put a stain wand in their hand and show them that it's really not that crazy. It's really not that tricky. So that's what we did. We stained this fence. And it was crazy to see. So like I said, 40 some odd percent moisture. It was still pulling stain through to the backside of those boards. Caleb's got a video of this. I saw, well, either Caleb or Stephen Kirchner have video of this. On the backside of this fence is being stained. You can see, you can see blossoms of stain on the backside of the board as the stain is getting pulled through. And then, of course, it's an oil-based stain, right? So as the oil penetrates the board, it displaces the water. Oil and water obviously do not mix. So it was incredible to see. Caleb went by, I guess, 2 days. No, it was Monday. So it would have been 3 days later. And guys, I'm telling you, I mean, it was light. It wasn't a full dark pecan, but that fence was stained. That stain held. And so I was pretty impressed by that demonstration. But yeah, so we stained a fence. We put a stain pole in a lot of guys' hands and gals' hand and let them have a hand at it. That's the thing is as I was starting out staining, I was nervous. I mean, you're always worried about messing up, especially if it's for customers. Our first few staining projects we did were for, old fencing material that we drug back to the lot and we stained ourselves. But those first few paying jobs are just nerve wracking. They made us incredibly nervous. So what Caleb was trying to do was take some of those nerves away. And I think, I talked to at least 2-3 guys there that it really had a good impact on. So while that was going on, Sean King, the Mr. Fence, is doing a demonstration with his equalizer. Let me check the name on that. So actually, I'll just bring you guys along. So let's do the screen share again. All right, so we're looking at tools. Yeah, the equalizer. So what this tool did, and again, I'm not sponsored. I just think he makes really good stuff. It allowed these guys to lay out a precise line of fence. So the way I'd always been trained, the way we installed fence up until me finding this tool was you would measure the line of fence and then you would do the math to figure out what equal sections were. And then you'd have your string line out, right? So you knew where the fence line was going to be. And then with a measuring tape, it's you and a partner would then mark out every single post spacing. Even guys that are incredibly efficient, this does take a while to get done. So he did a demonstration where, and I'm going to get these times wrong, but I want to say Sean's time for lining out the string, then taking the equalizer, marking out these posts. It was like 39 seconds for this line. It took 2 or 3 minutes to do it with a string and a measuring tape. And then he pulled a guy out of the crowd that had installed a fence or had installed fence, but hadn't installed a fence with the equalizer. And I think it took him like 45 seconds. So the margin of error between professional and someone who never, now the guy that used this is obviously a fencing professional, but someone who'd never used the tool before, someone experienced with the tool and someone inexperienced with the tool was like 7 seconds. I mean, it was pretty incredible to watch. So Sean was doing that demonstration, taking questions and answers on the tools on that while the staining was going on. And then also Sean showed us his Shadowlizer, which is another tool that just it helps. It makes laying out a shadow box fence a breeze. Sean's put a lot of thought in these tools. So where these tools come from, after talking with Sean, because I want to know, like, where do you come up with the ideas for these tools? Because they're spot on. He said, Joe, well, I've been making these tools for years. I was just making them for us. I make tools to make, the guys, our crew members, more efficient, because ultimately it helps out the team members, right? And it makes their job or day a little bit easier if they've got the right tools for the job. It also helps the customer out because now all of a sudden we're installing more panels per day. So our labor cost per panel goes down, saves the customer money. I said it worked for us for years. And so finally I started making them for other people. So I'm impressed with what Sean has going on. If you're looking for fence tools, Mr. Fence Tools is the way to go. We buy tools and I pay full price for them because I believe in them and they're worth every penny. All right, let's catch up here. Ball Till We Fall. I like that name. What type of fence do you suggest for uneven land? So, Ball, I would actually ask what your application is. What is the problem you want the fence to solve? There's several fences. There's the majority of fences we install can be contoured for grade. Now, some of them do it better than others. Some of them are more made for following terrain or uneven land. But most all of them can be contoured to the grade. So I'll ask you, Ball Till We Fall, what is the problem the fence is solving? What is the application? And I'll walk you through that away. McQuito, welcome back. For an 8-foot fence, 4 stringers or 3? We use 4. Now this is probably another subject that fence guys like to talk about. We use 4. We use 4 stringers for 8 foot. We use 3 stringers for 6 foot. We use 2 stringers for 4 foot. And if so the in between always defaults to the next level up, if that makes sense. So whereas for a 4-foot fence, we would use 2 stringers. For a 5-foot fence, we'd go up to 3 stringers. For a 6-foot fence, 3 stringers. For a 7-foot fence, 4 stringers. We always want to defer to the stronger structure type, the stronger solution. So yeah, for an 8-foot fence, we'll go with 4 stringers. You get that much more structural support. We'll also bring, depending on the spec, if there's not a spec and we're using steel posts, we'll typically set those posts 6 foot on center. Some manufacturers call for post spacing of 4 foot on center, and if that's the case, we'll space them on 4 foot to maintain the warranty. But yeah, 4 stringers per section. All right, Roger's on a field trip. We're going along. I love it. Roger, where are you taking a field trip to? Where are we going with you, sir? Danahan, what would you look for when choosing a fence contractor as a homeowner? So that's a great question. So first, I wouldn't be doing justice to the channel if I didn't tell you we've got a video. I think we've got a couple videos on picking contractors. Unfortunately, here in Southwest Missouri, we actually just had. Well, I say just had. We had a contractor last summer go through and unfortunately take advantage of some customers. Now, listen, there's 2 sides to every story. And so I wouldn't say that willy-nilly, but at this point, the Missouri Attorney General is involved. This has progressed past a misunderstanding. I really think, at some point in time he meant well, but then things went sideways. And so what would I look for when choosing a fencing contractor? I'd personally start with the AFA, the American Fence Association, see who in your area is a member of the AFA. The reason I say that is members of the AFA obviously pay to be in the association, but they pay to have access to education. We said earlier, so the AFA is putting on a fence installation school in Waverly, Nebraska. So we're going up there to participate in that to try to learn and grow as contractors. So being a member of the AFA shows you that not only are they wanting to better themselves, they're paying for the opportunity to do that. They obviously value education, right? Also, I would check with your local Better Business Bureau. So Better Business Bureau is pretty good about if we were to get a negative review, the Better Business Bureau would ask us for our opinion. They'd ask for some more supporting documentation, and then they'd make a ruling on whether the review stays or not, and if it affects your Better Business Bureau ranking. We work hard for the A+, but so that would be a good place to start. Also different review sites that I would check out would be Google and Facebook. Neither one of those sites lets you take reviews down. They do let you answer them, but there's some pretty strict criteria on getting a review taken down. And actually this subject came up over the weekend or last week also, but it has to be spam, or it has to be just an outright slander, or it takes quite a lot. And the reason I say that is it seems like, and so where the subject of conversation went was, how do you handle reviews from your competitors, your competitor spouses, spouses of people that work for your competitors? These are all people that like to leave 1-star reviews with no explanation. And then when you do a little bit of digging as to who this person is, come to find out they're a spouse or significant other, child of, one of your competitors' employees. You can't take it down. You got to leave it. Now you can explain it. You can try to explain it in the comments. Hey, Miss Customer, I looked in our customer records to try to find out more about your project so that I can try to understand better, where we may have gotten away from the 5-star level of service that we are known for. But I didn't find your information in our customer database. I also didn't find your address, if they left an address, but in our CRM or in our GPS records of where our vehicles are or where they have been. Further, when I did more research trying to reach out to you, I actually realized that you are spouse, child of one of our competitors' team members. Surely that didn't influence the review, but if so, I would hope that the review would be taken down. But anyway, I start with the review sites. Home builder associations are usually a good one. So our local home builder association of Southwest Missouri, they require you to provide proof of workman's compensation insurance. So that's a pretty big one too. Start with your review sites. Start with these independent, assessor, the Better Business Bureau, the independent third-party review sites, and then check workman's compensation, check for business license, make sure you get a physical copy of it, or at least they can provide a physical copy of it. I'm sure I'm missing a few, but like I said, we've got a few videos on, just basically how not to be taken advantage of by a fencing contractor. Great question. Baltowie Falls is basically to keep my kids and my pets in my yard and everyone else in theirs. That's right. So 3 things keep a fence company in business: kids, pets, and neighbors. My granddad used to say kids, pets, and bad neighbors, but we'll just leave it at neighbors, because sometimes it's not bad neighbors. Sometimes they're just misunderstood. Kids and pets are a big one. So that's the thing. If you're wanting privacy, wood fence. So the question was earlier was about on which fence is best to be installed on a contoured or a steeply graded yard. If you're wanting privacy, a wood fence, built on site is absolutely a great scenario. You could go chain link, either galvanized or vinyl coated. You could go ornamental steel or aluminum. Each one of those 4 options are rackable. Rackable is the aluminum and the steel terminology. And chain link, you can use bias cuts to have that chain link follow the grade. Any one of those would be great choices for you. So really, keep kids and pets in and out. If there's a privacy component to it, I'd say go with wood. If not, I like the ornamental steel and aluminum myself, but we also install a fair amount of chain link as well. Oh, okay, Roger. I'm sorry. I understand. So I did say that you guys can come along with me on my journey into the split screen universe. I understand. I apologize. I was hoping you were taking us somewhere, Roger. Hoping we were riding along with you somewhere, but that's okay. Bodie BX, crazy question, Joe. Crazy questions are the best questions. Absolutely not political, just curious. Okay. The border wall is technically a fence. How do you think the posts are built? I understand this is entirely different from what you primarily specialize in. Also, how much do you think those type of contracts typically cost? Also, can your company handle such projects if given the opportunity? So, all right, let's answer these in order. How do you think the posts are built? So the border fence, border wall, whatever. I've seen. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of different contractors working on it. There's been a lot of different iterations of the fence / wall. I've seen both round and square posts used. Man, that wall is huge. I forget what the actual finished height of that thing is, but it's. I mean, the thing's at every bit of 25 foot tall. It's massive. I haven't seen it in person, but I've seen the videos that everybody else has seen as guys climbing up and down the thing. So, I would say they say, typical rule of thumb is a third of the fence, a third of the height out of the ground should be in the ground. So if this thing's 25 foot, it should be 8 foot in the ground. I bet they're deeper than that. I'd say probably 10 to 12 foot deep. Depends on the diameter of the post as to the diameter of the hole. ASTM is, I believe, 3 times the diameter of the post is the hole size. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that. So, for a 4-inch post, which those posts are probably 6 or 8 inches. I mean, being that big. So if it's 8-inch, I mean, you're talking, what's that, 27 inches? No, it's not 27. Anyway, we're gonna need to know more about it. But how do you think they're built? They're probably steel. Yeah. I understand entirely different from what you primarily specialize in. It is. We do residential and commercial. For us, a crazy high fence. Well, I say that we do some 20-foot work inside on occasion for like warehouses. We did. I want to say it was 35 or 36 foot tall fence for a warehouse that had to have a gun cage cleared by the ATF, and it's floor to ceiling. It's 30 some odd feet. That one we used 3-inch Schedule 40 post. We sleeved them up near the top. So the concern we had is in the summer and the winter. So in the summer, the roof is going to rise, hot air rises, and the winter that roof's going to come back down. So that roof is going to fluctuate. If you anchored the post in the ground and then you anchored the post into the rafters, something's got to tear itself apart, right? So we put a sleeve up in, so we took 3-inch, took it to 2.5, welded it inside, put another 3-inch on top, welded that up into the ceiling so that 3-inch post could, glide over that 2.5-inch post. It still retain the rigidity, but in the summer and winter, it wouldn't tear itself apart. All right, special. How much do you think those type of contracts typically cost? There's absolutely no telling. So a lot of government work, and we don't do government work. Just it's not my cup of tea. It's not my thing. A lot of government contracts are time and materials. So you give them a markup on your material, what your standard markup is, and then what you bill out hourly per man hour. So it's time and materials. It's how a lot of those contracts, I have no idea what those contracts go for. I mean, millions. Millions, I'm sure. Can your company handle such a project if given the opportunity? I mean, probably not, to be completely honest. I mean, because we're talking about, miles and miles and miles, hundreds of miles of this fence. I mean, could we? Sure. But would it be timely and efficient? No. And it would be all we do. So it just wouldn't be a project. I'll put it this. It wouldn't be a project that we would be interested in. And I'll put it this way. So right now we're bidding a project that's huge for us. It's 1.01 miles. It's like 5,333 feet, 5,333 feet. That project for us is substantially large. It's larger than our average project. I typically like to be in and out of projects on a weekly basis. Now 5,300 feet, that's going to take us every bit of a month to do. So, and it's 8 foot tall. It's aluminum. There's a couple 50-foot gate openings. So those are going to be a little tricky. But that's a big project for us. So if we're talking about the border wall, border fence, it's not our cup of tea. Great question though, buddy. As a company that only installs metal posts, you guys cement all the posts or do you drive them? We cement them right now, Kevin. We do wet set. So we were talking earlier on wet set versus dry set. We wet set them now. But we are considering driving or dry setting these posts. I mean, there's some significant advantages to this. So one, there's a research paper out there, and I need to find it and link to it. But there's a research paper out there that says what you're doing, so when you drill a hole, you take an auger or your diggers, whichever, and you dig this hole. But as this auger is going around this hole, it's loosening up all the soil around it. So you remove a fair amount of the soil, but all the soil that's not removed isn't compacted either. It's been loosened as this auger is making its way through. So Sean's method of dry packing solves for that issue because it recompacts that soil. It compacts all the cement out, all the concrete mixture out, so that it's firming up the edge of that hole. The paper's concern was if you're dry setting, so you're dry setting a concrete slug into the dirt around uncompacted soil. Now that soil will recompact over time, but that's why, even when we set fences, set our gate posts, they're steel posts. The gates are steel framed. They're hung with steel hardware that connects directly from the steel post to the steel frame. There's no sag allowed in that. I mean, it's just not going to happen. But occasionally we do see gates that need adjusted. Now, this isn't speaking to wind damage or gates being slammed, anything like that. They need adjusted because what happens is these two posts settle at different rates. That's because at the bottom of the hole, that dirt's loosened as well. That dirt you're not setting to compacted soil at, down there. You've loosened that soil by either digging with hand diggers and rock bars or using an auger. Driving means that the soil is still compacted. So if anything, you're compacting it more by driving this post into it. So the reasoning behind the paper or the conclusion to the paper is that driving a post is stronger than if driven deep enough. So, I mean, that's the caveat here, right? So if we're setting a post of concrete, we're going for ASTM standard is 30 inches. We're going for a 24-inch minimum. 30-inch is optimum. Now, if you're driving a post, depending on the height of the fence, etc., but you're going to start at 36 inches and maybe go to 48 inches. If you're talking about an 8-foot fence, you're probably going to drive those things every bit of 4 feet. So you're going to need longer posts, longer drive time, that sort of thing. But I'm interested in it. I am. If it makes for a better, stronger fence and we can be more efficient, as long as it's a win-win, as long as the customer does not lose value in this transaction, if they gain value, that's a plus. But as long as it's either neutral value or customer gains value and we're efficient, I'm going to look into it. We're going to do research into it because, I mean, that's a win-win for both of us. So, but as of right now, we cement all the posts in, but we are looking into driving them. Stain and Seal of Fort Worth. What is up, Mr. Kirshner? Actually, it could be Mrs. Kirshner. I apologize. What is up, guys? So, guys, if you're in the staining and sealing world, so Kenny Dugan is also obviously a great follow. Stain and Seal of Fort Worth is a great follow as well. So Stephen Kirshner posted a video last night talking about project walkthroughs and how important pre-walkthroughs, how important they are. I agree completely, and especially bringing your customer along on that journey. If the customer is not along on the journey, probably videotaping it just so you have that documentation of exactly how things were pre-project. But he said something in that video. He said, it's been a long day. I couldn't do the video from the project because there's some landscapers there, but I had it on my list to provide value today. So here's the video of me providing value. And what I heard was that Steven has a list, right? He has the things he needs to do today. And on that list is provide value. And I love that so much. I got the opportunity to talk to Steven there in Nashville, and I'm telling you what, such a great guy. And he would, so Stay and Seal Fort Worth would be a great page to follow. Steven and Lindsay are up to some incredible business down there. I think we could all learn quite a bit from them. But he says, thanks for the response, Joe. Also, kudos for pronouncing my name correctly first try. I applaud the accuracy. I do what I can. So I actually had a buddy named Bodie back in school. So, but I can see how people might mispronounce that, I guess. Yeah. If I hadn't have said it thousands of times through school, I probably would have said that incorrectly, but you're very welcome. Great question. Guys, as you're joining us, bring in the questions or the comments, etc. I'm I'm always happy to help. We're here for a while, so we're here for another hour and a half. I like to go from 3 to 5:30. Now, guys, here's the thing. So in the past, I have said 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time is when this thing shuts off. And sometimes it's 5:45 and sometimes it's 6. But I am making an effort that at 5:30, we're cutting this thing off. And the reason being, my kids are missing me, right? And it's, well, this morning, so my son's 3, and he likes to play with blocks. And he brought down some blocks. As I'm getting ready to leave for work, he brings down some blocks and he wants to play. And I said, well, I got to go to work. Of course, he does not handle that very well, as a 3-year-old would. So I said, well, when I get home from work, we're going to play with these things. And I forget exactly what he said, but basically it's like, you don't come home until it's dinner time, then we have to go to bed after dinner. So anyway, I say that to say today, shut off time is 5:30. If you guys catching me going past 5:30, let me know. Because sometimes I get passionate about these things, right? Sometimes I'm in the middle of a thought or a thought sequence, and I want to get it all out. Sometimes I need somebody to say, hey, you said you had a hard out at 5:30. Get out of here. So if you guys catch me going past 5:30, be sure to let me know. Say all that to say is if you guys have questions, comments, etc., please drop them in the comments. St. Steel Experts Fort Worth, St. Steel of Fort Worth. Marcus Sheridan speaking at the CASA Next Level event at the end of April in Destin, Florida. Let's go, bud. So, yeah, that caught my attention. So I saw Tom post that in the CSA. So Tom's actually going to be a guest on this show. For those of you not in the Contractor Sales Academy or the Contractor Fight world, Tom Reber started Contractor Fight. He's also partners in the Contractor Sales Academy with several other guys and gals. But he's my business coach for several years. Great guy. He's going to be our guest April 1st. Let me double check that. Let me double check here. I'm not telling you guys wrong. Yeah, April the 1st. Tom Reber is going to be right here. So I'm looking forward to it. But I saw Tom post in the Contractor Fight that Marcus Sheridan is going to be there. I'm interested in that. I really am. So the dates are going to be the thing. We have an event. We have a HBA home show that's going to be around then. I need to clarify the dates on that. Also, we're hoping to get some family time. So I'd love to go if it's at all possible. If my calendar is clear in April, the weekend that this is, weekend this is, I'm there. Marcus Sheridan, guys, for you guys that don't know, if you guys own a business or business influencer that in the marketing side, you don't know Marcus Sheridan, you need to stop what you're doing and go research this man. So this guy, he was partners in a pool company, a pool installation company, right as the housing bubble burst. And so it's him talking about his journey, just keeping his business, trying to keep the business afloat was the first thing. The second thing was actually building this business, right? And so he has a book called They Ask You Answer. I brought several copies of it to the events I spoke at last week, just because I really believe that Marcus's content is foundational knowledge, foundational information that home service contractors need to review. They need to build their marketing for their businesses on the foundation of Marcus Sheridan's work. Anyway, so that's a very long-winded answer to say I hope to meet you there. Ball Till We Fall. I still love that name. Thanks for the answer. I used to work construction for many years. I'm thinking of DIYing it, but may end up hiring because nothing makes your yard look worse than a badly done fence. All right. I'm going to agree with that. I do agree. That being said, I mean, especially with a construction background, installing fence is not hard. I mean, it's not overly tricky. There's no industry specific tools that you have to have or just won't work. There's no installation secrets that only contractors know. It's pretty out there. It's pretty open, right? So the biggest thing I see when DIY fences go wrong is they don't take the time and they don't pay attention to the details. So as long as you've got time to install it, it will take longer than hiring a contractor. There's no two ways about it. But as long as you have the time to invest in it and you pay attention to the details, I mean, I think you'll go all right. But I mean, I'm also a fencing contractor, so if you don't feel If you don't feel comfortable with it, or if you'd like it to get installed quicker than it would if you were installing it, then I would recommend hiring a qualified contractor as well. All right, we got Steven today. Steven Kirchner's here. Guys, seriously, Steven, I am really impressed with what you have going on. I mean, so I talked about video content at Sand Seal Expert University, which is where Steven was. And Steven took action like almost immediately, like next day immediately. And he made a public post, so this is not me sharing like personal conversations. He listed his takeaways from the talk, and he said, here's exactly how we're handling it. And, he started doing more video content. He started updating his YouTube page. So, Steven, I subscribe to you on YouTube. I'm following your YouTube content, and I like what you're up to. So, Steven and Lindsay are documenting the customer journey. And I think that is an incredible step towards helping your customers make an educated decision towards hiring you for their project. And honestly, it's something that we're going to be doing within Ozark Fence. Sarah and I had this conversation when I got back, is we need to begin documenting the customer journey and have that available publicly on YouTube for anyone to digest and consume. I mean, obviously it's good for our customers, right? To say, hey, in the welcome email, welcome to the Ozark Fence family. Here's what to expect. Also, we have a video series specifically about the customer journey that you can expect. To find that journey, click here. I think that's incredibly powerful. I'm a huge proponent of video. I think all home service contractors should be shooting video, because there's no better way to form a personal connection with someone without physically meeting them. The example I gave was, before Sarah came on as our client experience officer. I always have to get that right. She claims client experience officer is CEO. I beg to differ. I mean, she's young enough, like she's not a millennial, but anyway, she's young enough. All the young kids are saying EXO, client experience. They're using, they're sounding it out. They're using phonics on that. But anyway, CX is, before Sarah came on as our CEO or CXO, depending on what you want to call it, I did all the consultations for residential. And so what solidified this in my mind that it was working and that it's worthwhile is I rang this lady's doorbell. She opens the door and she goes, "You're that guy on Facebook." At the time, we were only producing content on Facebook. I said, "Well, yes, ma'am." I said, I'm a little too stingy to be hiring somebody to do that work. And if I did, they probably wouldn't look like me. We had a little chuckle and a laugh about that. And we go in the backyard and I'm measuring it. And I said, "No, man, we do things a little bit differently than most. We only use steel post." And that's because, and I took a breath. And in that breath, she said, "That's right. That's one of the movies I watched of you, because you were telling me how it's not going to rust. It's got a warranty that's not going to rust. And it's got a warranty that the wind isn't going to blow it over. Is that right?" Yeah, you covered it. You saved me about 10 minutes talking to you about my product. And that's when I realized she knew me before I rang her doorbell. And she knew what I was going to tell her before I even got into her yard. She pre-qualified herself. And really, at that point, all I was there to do is measure the yard and give her a price and see if it fit in her budget. She didn't need to know who Ozark Fence was and what they did. She didn't need to know why the product was important and why she should value it. She did all that homework on her own by watching our videos. So that was a crystallizing moment for me. And I became incredibly passionate about video. And that's the story I told there at Sand Seal Experts and at Mr. Fence Academy, is you got to be doing video. So anyway, Steven took action on that. I'm really impressed with what they're up to. So you guys should follow Sand Seal of Fort Worth on YouTube. They've got a great channel. Kevin says, "I'm trying to convince my partner to exclusively go with metal post only. And if the customer insists on wood post, that would void their warranty. How do you feel about that?" All right. So I mean, I'm a big fan of steel post only. I mean, they're the best value out there for post. Are they more expensive? Yes. But the first time you don't have to replace them, when you would have replaced a wood post, you're ahead money. Absolutely. 100%. I don't care what the labor rate is. I don't care the first time you don't have to go out there and replace a post, that customer saved money. They saved more money than what it cost them to upgrade to that steel post. 100%. Like I would love for someone to show me the numbers that says that statement isn't true. I've ran the numbers. I mean, it simply is true. Regardless of what you pay for them. And that's the thing is we get a discount on the steel, on the Postmaster Steel post, because we buy them in bulk. We buy by the truckload. So we do get a discount. I understand that. So that comments came up. That retail, these posts are anywhere from $30 to $40 a piece. I understand. I'm telling you right now, if I still had to pay $40 a post, it's still money ahead when you don't have to replace that wood post. I really don't think someone could convince me otherwise. So first and foremost, like that's really where my conversation ends, is that it is the best value for the client. I know that as a professional. So the second part is if they insist on wood posts, that would void their warranty. So here's the thing. At Ozark Fence, at my company, we provide workmanship warranties. So whether it's a wood post or a steel post, the workmanship is still the same, right? If we were still installing wood posts, it would still be the same as installing steel posts because workmanship doesn't change. Now, the material warranties vary by manufacturer. Like I said, we use Postmaster Post. Master Halco warranties the post. Master Halco would be responsible for the warranty on that post. I have nothing to do with the warranty. I didn't manufacture the post. Same thing with wood products. That's when you talk to fence guys, some guys are a little bit more cheeky about this than others. I was chatting with some guys, when we're talking about pressure treated warranties, is I guarantee that they're going to warp, twist, split, crack, check, whatever, within the first 6 months. Guaranteed money back. If they don't do that, you need to go buy a lottery ticket because you're one of the luckiest people in this world. But that all goes to say that the material warranties are by manufacturer only. So it wouldn't void my workmanship warranty if we were to install a wood post. But let's talk for a second that, if the customer insists on wood posts and in your heart of hearts that steel posts are the best value, is that client your ideal client? Is that project your ideal project? I would argue that it's not. So does it stink that you might have to take a pass on that project? Sure. But if it's not your ideal project, then what are you doing? Are you doing it to chase money, or are you doing it to build value? That's kind of where I would be on that argument, or that conversation where you're convincing your partner. That's exactly how I feel about that. But he says, Joe, to be honest, 3 months ago, I knew absolutely nothing about fence, but the blaze orange caught my attention. Doing something here on your thumbnails. Your plethora of knowledge and kind spirit keep me here. Bodie, I'm glad to have you, and I welcome you to the Fence Fam. Guys, here's the thing. So there's some confusion on Fence Fam on what was it? There's a string of conversation in one of the comments. I welcome someone to the Fence Fam, like, well, I'm not a fencing contractor. I just do. Listen, if you're here, absorbing the content and talking about fence, and obviously, you're interested in it, you're the Fence Fam, Bodie. I think I started Fence Fam. I'll have to go back and look, and I probably didn't, but whatever. I am welcoming you to the Fence Fam, and that's just all there is to it. So I'm glad the blaze orange caught your attention. I did a video on that as well because so if the number one comment in all of our videos, if we went through and categorized every comment, if the number one comment wasn't about how posts are set, concrete versus gravel versus whatever, the number one comment would be something to the effect of like, are you producing content from prison, or you look like an inmate, or any of one of these other ones. Like, that's got to be if that's not the number one, that's the number two comment, is whether I'm incarcerated or a prisoner, or I look like I should be in jail. Guys, it's a marketing thing, right? Is all we, as a business, my contracting company, Ozark Fence, we all wear orange because it's highly visible. It's a high vis color. That's what started us down that road in the beginning. It is a high vis color. I want my guys to be visible at all times. And on some projects, it's a requirement that we wear high visibility colors. It's a twofer, as Sean King would say. It's a twofer. Yeah, so I'm glad it caught your attention, Bodie. I'm so glad to have you. I appreciate your questions. I really do. Danahan, have you had any material supplier issues during COVID? Do you still price shop for materials, or have you been basically the same supplier for years? Yeah, to both of them. Yeah, material supply issues and supplier issues in general during COVID. Yes, I mean it's been nuts. It really has. So we went through an issue with pressure treated pine, where pressure treated pine. When was it? It was a little bit later in the year from there. So right a year ago. So this is March 1st. A year ago, so the coasts were starting to get locked down. We were hearing about lockdowns, but here in the Midwest, it hadn't really come yet. But I'd say maybe midsummer to late summer, we started seeing shortages in pressure treated pine. So our wholesalers started telling us ahead of time, hey, we don't have the stock that we had, and prices are going up. And then it got to, like, I don't care what price you pay for it, it's just not available. It's just not there. Now prices have come back down. Now here's the thing. We were using number one, pressure treated pine. So number one, in fencing material still isn't readily available. There's some out there, but talk about King's Ransom. It's expensive. So number two is common on the market, and the price for number two has come down almost to where number one was before. And I'll use post as an example. So we were paying roughly $8.50 a post for a 4x4x8 pressure treated pine on number one. Now, number one is not available. If they are available, they're still up around $20 a post. Number two, pressure treated pine, is right now about $12.50 a post. Here in our market, I'm sure everyone's market's different, but we pay $12.50 a post for number two. So it's still number two versus number one, still more expensive, $8.50 versus $12.50. But they're available. But this gets back to the value conversation. So we went from pressure treated pine issues, and then that led to cedar issues, which we're still facing cedar shortage issues, because we still had customers that were only interested in cedar. Those customers didn't go away. But the customers that were interested in a pressure treated product, well, now it's not available. Even if you want it, I can't get it. So now those customers were moved into the cedar market. So the cedar market, I mean, the supply was still, they say the supply went down. I don't know that supply went down. I think demand doubled, and that became an issue. One way or the other, supply could not keep up with demand. So the prices are through the roof. Right now we're paying $3.80 a picket for, 1 by 5.5 by 6 picket, where we were paying $3 a picket. So prices are still high. Quantities. So we just ordered another truckload of cedar today, and there was a lot of hemming and hawing over whether they had a truckload that they were able to sell. They had it on the ground, but he didn't know if he was able to sell it. Luckily, we're taking delivery on that here in a couple of weeks. So, but we've been having issues. If you asked me 4 months ago, I mean, we would have had, it was like a 2-month lead time on truckloads. So we bought 3 truckloads just to have some on hand. Anyway, so we had issues there. Do you still price shop for materials? Absolutely, 100%. So we've got, as I said earlier, we've got a big project coming up, about 5,300 foot of 8-foot tall aluminum. And we price shopped it out to our three main suppliers of aluminum. You have to, especially right now. So manufacturers, and it depends on the manufacturer, but most manufacturers are only giving 5-day pricing. Some are only giving 2-day pricing, which is bonkers anyway. But you got to price shop to see who has their price where. Used to be I knew exactly who we were talking to, what supplier we were talking to. If you said, "Hey Joe, I need a truckload of tubing," I'd say, "Okay, well, this is who I would call for that. Fittings, that's who I would call. Wire, that's who I would call." I knew who to go to for what item that we were looking for. Now, I mean, it's a free for all. I mean, the main suppliers carry tubing, wire, fitting. If we're talking about chain link, tubing, wire, and fittings, accessories, and all of that. Now, but I knew who would have the best price on which one. Now you got to go to all of them just to see who has fittings priced affordably today. And affordably probably isn't even right. Who has the lowest price on fittings today versus, and that could be somebody completely different 5 days from now. I could buy, this week I could place an order for 2.5-inch tension bands and get a good price from brand A. Next week, I'll put the same thing out to bid. Brand B has the best price on 2.5-inch tension bands. You just don't know right now. Everyone's pricing is just all over. So, yeah, we still price shop for materials. We've been using the same group of suppliers for years. Now, it used to be, sorry guys, I got a really, really dry throat. So it used to be when I was a kid, we only dealt with one supplier. We dealt with a company called Merchants Metals, and I'm talking like 10 years old, whatever. When I was a kid, we were dealing with Merchants Metals. We always ever dealt with Merchants Metals. And then one day Merchants Metals decided that they were going to drop our market completely. So this was like, so we get, for whatever reason, the Springfield market, everyone always delivers on Thursdays. All of the main suppliers decided that Thursday is the day that they're going to be in Springfield. Well, so on a Monday or Tuesday, I don't remember the specifics. This has been, something like 15 years ago. But like on a Monday or Tuesday, Merchants Metals called my dad up, said, "Oh, by the way, we're not coming to Springfield anymore." That's okay. Well, how does that affect this week's order? I said, "Well, we're not coming to Springfield anymore." So my dad had to scramble to find a supplier that could supply us with materials for that week's order. And so then we went to Merchants Metals. And it was just so happens that most of the people that I knew from Merchants went over to Master Halco. So Kenny Sally was our driver when I was a kid. All growing up, I knew Kenny. Kenny's a really good guy. I like that guy a lot. And he ended up being, I believe his title was inside sales there at Master. No, actually, no. We went to Jameson, and then Master bought Jameson. Anyway, so we were Jameson for years and years and years. The salesman stayed the same. We used to deal with the same company all the time, but so now we got to deal with a group of suppliers. And we got to shop every load. So, but here's the thing is what we're doing now is normal in a lot of other markets where it's completely abnormal in most markets to be loyal to one brand for all of your everything. We're just learning that lesson now here in the Midwest. So Mike wants to know, ever had any issues with neighbors of your clients while working, like property line disputes? Yeah. Yeah, that is for real. Yeah, I don't think, are you really a fence guy if you haven't been involved with a property line dispute? That would be my question. So a few. One of them came to mind. It was a 4-foot chain link job, and I knew it was going to be a problem in the consultation phase because here's what happened. So this is an older part of Springfield. These houses were built like pre-automobile, right? They don't have driveways. They didn't need driveways. They don't have automobiles. So one thing leads to another. Two neighbors. Neighbor A is my client. Neighbor B is not my client. Well, neighbor A and neighbor B came to an agreement years past. Now, neighbor B's house B's previous owner came to an agreement that he could use part of neighbor A's, house A's land for his driveway. He wanted a driveway. All right, no problem. I'm not using that part of the land. So he allowed a driveway. No easements, no access easements or anything. Well, owner of house B moved. New owner of house B and owner of house A do not get along. These guys do not like each other. They probably hate each other, if we're being honest. We're working for neighbor A. So one thing leads to another. Neighbor A says, "Oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to put a fence right down my property line," which is right down the middle of this guy's neighbor B's driveway. So I gave him a really high price because I didn't want to be involved with it. I don't like drama. I don't want to be a part of drama. I don't need drama in my life. Not necessary. Well, he took the job. He accepted our offer, our proposal. So I told the guys, this is going to be an issue. Work from our customer's property only. Do not get on customer B, neighbor B's property or anything. And then sure enough, they'd only been gone for like 20, 30 minutes. I get a phone call. Hey, if you could come out here, police are here. Okay. I was planning on being out there anyway, so jumped in the truck, drove over there. So of course the complaint is trespassing. Well, so I say, officer, there's a property pin. There's a property pin, the front pin, and the surveyor placed a property pin right next to this guy, the neighbor B's existing side fence, the fence that came from his house to the side property line, what he viewed the property line to be. Anyway, so here's the property pin here. There's a property pin there. I have the survey, the plat map. I'll show you exactly we're going from here to here. We're not encroaching. We actually stepped in a foot inside the property line to make sure that there wasn't an issue. Well, and the officer's just doing his job. I mean, and he was totally nice about it. And he took the information. He said, okay, well, just to clarify, you're not on the property. No, sir. We're on our client's property. Our guys are working from this client's property. And of course, officer had no problem with it. So he explained to neighbor B that we were there legally and we were to be allowed to work. And anyway, it tied up half a day trying to sort this out. And of course, the rest of the day is neighbor B cursing, me and the guys for building this fence. My point is, hey, we're just here to do a job. We're just here to build a fence. Now, if you can't get along with your neighbors, anyway. Yeah. So to answer your question, yes, we have had issues with neighbors, clients, property line disputes. Like I said, 3 things keep a fence company in business: kids, pets, and neighbors. Bad neighbors specifically. All right, Cameron says, what is the best way to apply an oil stain, airless sprayer, or air gun? I mean, we use an airless sprayer. I haven't used an air gun system. I think I know what you're talking about with a hopper that's built into the gun. It probably wouldn't hold enough stain to really make that worthwhile. We use a Graco. I'd have to go look at it. I want to say it's a Graco 390 airless sprayer. I like it a lot. It's really efficient. It's easy to clean, which is a plus. And even fence guys can use it. And if us fence guys can figure out this airless sprayer, I think it's good for just about everybody. Cameron, I don't have experience with an air gun per se. I think I know what you're talking about. Like I said, I think it's the one with the hopper built into the gun, and you would have to be refilling that thing constantly, I would think. I would go with the airless sprayer. You're very welcome, Steven. You're very welcome. Here's the thing. It's weird. It's weird hearing about being an inspiration to folks. I'm a fence guy that talks to a camera in an empty room. So let's think about that. Baltimore Falls says, speaking of neighbors, any tips on approaching them about putting up a fence? Just knock on the door and say, hey, I'm putting up a fence. Yep, that's exactly right. I mean, if you got their phone number, you can call them, but I mean, it's always easier to. So recently, I say recently, last summer, we replaced my fence. My wife had enough of this fence. It was actually like 4 different fences. So we've got 2 neighbors that share our backyard because our backyard is a little bit wider than the other yards. So we got 2 neighbors in the backyard. We got 1 neighbor on each side of us. So we got 4 different fences. And as a fence guy, that's a little embarrassing. They had different width boards. They had different height. The heights were a little bit different. Like one was 6 inches lower than the rest of them. I don't even know how that was possible. As a fence guy, a little bit embarrassing. So we replaced this fence. And that's exactly what I did. I went and knocked on doors, said, hey, Jeff, I've seen the fence. You've seen the fence. It's time to replace that fence, don't you think? Yep. All right. Well, what do you think? The fence is going to be X amount of dollars to replace. My cost. You want to split that with me? One of the neighbors said yes. The other 3 just weren't in a financial situation to participate, which is fine. That's fair. I went into it knowing that, I need to go into this thinking that I might pay for the whole thing, and I need to be okay with that. One of the neighbors pitched in with me, and that's fine. The other 3 just weren't in a position to. That's acceptable also. I mean, I get it. And listen, last summer, we were in the middle of the pandemic. Most people were either working from home or not working. So the financial situations were very different last year. That's acceptable. That's absolutely okay. So, yeah, knock on the door. Hey, I'm putting up a fence. We share this property line. If there's a fence there now, obviously we got to take this fence down, put up the fence. And here's the thing is, some customers are nervous to talk to their neighbors. The best case scenario, if it's an old fence, like they see the same fence you're seeing, they know it's time to be replaced. So it's usually a pretty easy conversation. And surprisingly, it might surprise you to know that, they've been thinking about doing it and you just did the legwork for them. You found the contractor that did it. You got the bids. Here's the bids. Here's the contractor I chose to do the fence. Here's the cost. So when we know there's a neighbor cost sharing situation, we'll break out, your west line is X dollars, your north line, your south line, here's the dollar amount of each line of fence. So then you can go to your neighbors and say, the cost of this line is X. What do you think about splitting that? If you did split that, your portion would be Y. It's more common than you think to have neighbors cost share fences. And that probably varies regionally, I guess. Here in our area in the Midwest, it is more common than you'd think. We have clients that really get kind of nervous about it, and it's not really something to be nervous about at all. Or they say they don't, or they say that they can't match, or they can't do half of it, but they could do some of it. I mean, you might find somebody willing to share the cost of that fence with you. So I would say absolutely. Yep, Matt's got some good advice. I'd let him know I'm putting up a fence, and be nice if a survey is needed. I always suggest getting it done. Yeah, absolutely. Agreed, Matt. So we on all of our proposals, we include the cost of having your property corners located. Even if you and your neighbor are going in on this fence, it's still a good idea to get it located. Now, so often having your property corners located is different than having a full-blown survey done. Typically, a full-blown survey is more expensive. It comes with, a survey map and that sort of thing. And for building a fence, that's not absolutely necessary. The same surveyor can perform, a service of locating the property corners without creating a survey map, filing it with the county assessor, that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, we always, I'm always a proponent of that. I always suggest it. Like I said, even if you and the neighbor agree where the fence is going and you're cost sharing on the fence, I would still suggest it because, I mean, in my example where, you had house A and house B, the first owner of house B left and then a new owner came in and A and B did not get along. It would be really good to know, hey, this fence, exactly where that fence was in relation with the property line. Now, this is going to vary state to state. So here in Missouri, if the fence is on the property line, then it's shared property. Let me mute you guys real quick because I got a phone call from my dad coming in. It might be important. Sorry about that. I need to put this thing on airplane mode, I guess. Well, no, we'll leave it there. So just bear with me. So bring you guys into our world of craziness right now. So we bought some buildings that were next to our property. So they were our neighbors. They moved, put the buildings up for sale. We bought them. And so we're moving our entire office and production, everything. The office moves tomorrow. So there are some phone calls coming in and going out about that move and the logistics of the move and who has gate transmitters and who has gate codes and should the gate be left open or closed and what is the door code for the new place and all that. So tomorrow is the big day. This will be the last live Q&A from this studio. So I've shared that with you guys before. So literally I'm in about a 10 by 12 office is what this is. So it's like a shared office scenario to where I lease out a 10 by 12 space with 5 other people. Well, I have this space, but there's 5 other of these 10 by 12 offices. And then there's a shared conference room, shared bathrooms and all that, shared hallway, kind of like a WeWork scenario similar to that. But this is my office. I have a key to the door. So I can leave all this set up. And that's the key here. So prior to this, now this was prior to this YouTube channel. This is when I was doing YouTube content for Ozark Fence. I did it out of my living room. So my wife would take the kids to go to the park and play, and I would throw up a backdrop real quick, and I'd throw up the lights and turn the lights on and start the camera, and I'd create some content until finally she got tired of playing. It's been hours, and the kids are ready to come home. So I got to tear down the lights real quick and tear down this, and they can give them the living room back. Until finally one day, she's like, you know what? This isn't working. You need to find a different place to do your videos. And so I leased this space. Like I said, it's 10 by 12. It's pretty tight in here. Like I could almost reach to either side and touch. So we got tables on both sides that hold like video gear, baseball cards. I'm a pretty big collector of baseball cards. I got a different YouTube channel that does that. And we got, of course, lights and backdrop and whiteboards. And anyway, it's a tight fit in here. But in these new properties, in these new buildings that we bought, one of them is what is legally a caretaker's quarters. And I say that because in the city of Springfield, you cannot have an apartment in a commercial property. So this is not an apartment. It's a caretaker's quarters. So what we're doing is we're converting that into a YouTube studio. And we actually, that's just fabric. It's just a fabric backdrop I got off Amazon. But I reached out. So I met a guy named Ruben Borg. He has Ruben Borg Fence over in California. He also has a company called Rewood, which what they do is when they take down a redwood fence, they will, instead of taking the pickets and either taking it to the dump or repurposing them elsewhere, they'll finish one side. They'll plane it down to where it's perfectly smooth. They'll apply a 3M adhesive and they'll sell that as like an accent wall decoration. It looks exactly like what's behind me, except for it's real. It's redwood. Now, a lot of them are natural boards. There's also some painted boards and stained boards. It's neat. I did a video on it. That video, we actually still need to film the outro to that video. So you guys probably won't see that video for about a month or so. But you will see it. You'll see the Rewood product next week at the new place. There's a lot going on. If you guys have ever moved houses, it's like that, but worse to try to move a company. And I really thought it would be easier because it's on the same property. We just knocked down the fence in between our properties and it's right there. It's actually worse because if you're moving houses or you're moving even companies across town, you just get a big rental truck and you pack it all up and you move it over. We've been moving like for the we had to do repairs to the building. We bought this building back in December, a set of buildings back in December. The office the office area was actually a house back in the 50s. The caretaker's quarters is actually the hayloft of a barn, and then they're connected. So from the outside, it looks like an office building, like kind of a normal office building. The inside, it's kind of crazy. So we've been doing work in there. We've been getting it up and ready, fixing HVAC systems. What did we do? We had a broken pipe last week, I think. It's been an ordeal. Anyway, so we've been moving all week. Tomorrow's the day that they move the internet, and therefore our phones, we have internet with VoIP phones. So they move our internet tomorrow. So we're moving the office stuff. We have all the non-essential office stuff is already over there and waiting. So this week, for all intents and purposes, we've been operating out of two different offices that are like 200 feet apart. So you got to walk back. If you needed something from the filing cabinet, you got to go to the new office. But the new office doesn't have internet. So if you need to scan it, you got to bring it back and scan it, email it, take it back. It's a hassle. But tomorrow's the day where we move the internet and we move the offices and then we're done. And so we also, the YouTube studio is like 90% done. The 10% is still like the two lights that are here are coming, like the video gear, the whiteboard, sound panels are coming, but we got the Rewood up. They're building the desks right now for that. So yeah, next week, this time, there'll be a totally new studio. It'll look kind of like this, but newer and better. All right, let's see. All right, so the card channel is called Pinnacle Finds, PINACLEFINDS, Pinnacle Finds. So it's baseball cards and Pokemon. All right, bear with me. I like Pokemon cards, so the Pokemon cards are on the channel. Say what you want. They're not real sports cards. They're not real collector's cards. I like them, so we're doing it. But yeah, so I don't know if we want to get geeky on sports cards, but like literally right off camera, there's a table and it has, I don't know, 30 or 40 boxes of cards. So you got like new Panini Prisms, you got new Bowman Draft. I'm excited to get into these 2020 Bowman Draft. I don't think, well, there's 5 boxes. I must have opened one. I'm excited about these. Yeah. So I was going to show you guys other cards, but I mean, you guys get it, right? Topps triple threads. I like Topps triple threads. They got some sweet cards. Anyway, this isn't the baseball card channel. I just get really excited about it. So Pinnacle Finds. So that channel is kind of on autopilot right now. So my daughter was born in late December, and before she was born, I recorded a ton of videos and then just like I just scheduled them to post automatically because I knew, I don't know, I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess, because so my daughter was born in late December. I bought these buildings in December knowing that we're going to move over the winter time. Yeah, and so I'm a glutton for punishment. So I knew I had a lot going on, so I just filmed a bunch of content. So the videos that are posted there now, the commentary might be a little out of date. I saw a comment come through on that channel the other day where I was talking about Colton Wong may or may not be a Cardinal. I love the Cardinals. We're in Missouri. Cardinals are my ball team. So talking about Colton Wong maybe or may not be, and then somebody's like, "Hey, don't you watch the news?" Okay, I get it. But I was recording this thing, 3 months ago. So bear with me a little bit on the commentary. But Pinnacle Finds is that channel. No excuses. You went all in. I've been making this happen. Love seeing behind the scenes of you and the channel. Yeah, I appreciate that, Steven. So I want to do a video of the move. So that's going to complicate things a little bit next week. So Tuesdays are typically the days we record YouTube content. So not the live stuff, obviously, but the pre-recorded stuff that you guys see. Now we upload them on Saturdays. It used to be on Wednesdays. But the pre-recorded content you guys see on Saturdays, that we record that on Tuesdays. So this Tuesday is going to be like our moving day. So I want to put GoPros in here and like show you guys, show you like a behind the scenes of behind like what the channel looks like. I'll probably won't have the sports cards in here because like it's a lot and it doesn't have anything to do with fencing. So I'll probably take the sports cards out and then do like a behind the scenes tour of, what lights we use, what camera we use, like how things are set up in general. Just kind of give you guys that behind the scenes tour. It's going to be a quick tour because, like I said, the office is a 10 by 12. There's only so much things to go over here, or only so many things. And then, like, just take you guys over to the new studio, do a behind the scenes tour of the new studio, how the new lights, they're the same lights, but how the lights are going to be arranged, how the new studio looks. What I'm hoping for, and I don't know if this will happen. We need to get in there and like really lay things out. Like, I need the equipment in there to really know how things are going to lay out. And I can't do that if the equipment's here, but I want to have like a live desk and a recording desk. So like this would be the recording desk because this is where I record all of the recorded content. How many times can you say record in a sentence? But I want to have a separate live desk. So I watch this YouTube channel. If you guys are into it, so Steven, if you're into producing YouTube content, you should watch this guy called Nick Nimmin. Nimm. Let's look up his channel together. What do you think? So let's do this. All right. I'm not going to be able to bring you guys along right now because I got to log into my YouTube. So let's look up Nick Nimmin. All right. I'm going to share my screen with you guys again. Hey, we're getting better at this, huh? Look at this Finch guy doing technology stuff, huh? All right, here we go. I'll just make this full screen. So this is Nick Nimmin's channel. Well, I guess I'm showing you guys some channel X. Well, that's some information about his channel. So if you guys do YouTube content, so I use TubeBuddy, not a plug or a promo. I pay full price for it, but it gives you like information. It gives you information on your channel, and apparently it gives you information on their channel as well. So that's kind of interesting. But he made, so basically Nick's passion is to help people make better YouTube content and to create better YouTube channels. So, he's got how to deal with toxic viewers. That's a good one. if you're making content on YouTube, you've got to have thick skin. There's no way around it. How many subscribers you need to unlock all of YouTube? So that conversation came up last week, is about monetization, how we monetize this channel, that sort of thing. So he goes in depth on that. I want to try to find his live videos and show you kind of what I'm thinking. All right, let's go back. All right, Nick Nimmin live. Actually, so I can't click on this. So, all right, let's talk about something. Bring this back to me. So Nick Nimmin, write this name down. Go check out his content. Check out his live, and you'll get a good idea what I'm going for in my live. Let me tell you why we're not going to view his content. So, he's great. I like Nick a lot. I've actually listened to Nick talk. I've met Nick at YouTube conventions. So he and I have a mutual friend. So the mutual friend did the introduction, and I just kind of sat there like, it's really nice to meet you. I was fanboying over Nick Nimmin, and that's just embarrassing, to be honest. Anyway, why I'm not showing his channel. So I guess I can talk about it because it's not. All right. So we did a channel. So we do reaction videos, right? We actually just did one last Saturday. We did a reaction video of, which one was that? It was, let me go into my channel and see. So the way this works is I record these videos like a month or a month and a half ago, and then they just kind of, we schedule them to get posted. Yeah, Bob Vila. So it is the Bob Vila video. Most review videos are totally fine. I mean, here's the thing: it's a win-win, right? So now listen, compare. Let's look at Bob Vila's channel. Let's just look him up. See how big I like to see how large the channels are. So let's look at Bob Vila. So he has 102 subscribers. Bob Vila does, which is, incredible. Like it's a huge channel. I have 19. This channel has 19,000 subscribers, which for me is massive. Like, and if you guys subscribe to the channel, I appreciate it a lot. It helps show YouTube that I'm producing good content, right? But in the terms of YouTube, with channels that have millions of subscribers, 19,000 is a fly on the windshield, right? It's a splat that you just hardly even see if you're one of these million subscriber channels. We did a reaction video on one of these channels on how this channel builds their fence. And it was positive. It was part of my positive reaction series, right? Because I think there's too much negativity in the world. I don't think we need to negatively review anybody. And let's talk about for a minute that who says I'm qualified to negatively review anybody. Now, I've installed fence for 25 years. I've installed fence for quite a while. Well, I wasn't installing fence when I was a kid. So I've been in the fence industry for 25 years. I built a fair amount of fences. So, but I still don't think that qualifies me to negatively review or judge anybody's work. There's always more than one way to build a fence. This just happens to be my way. That's what our intro used to be. Positively reviewing the channel. And the video did well. You guys like to watch it. It got a lot of views. So while I was in Nashville, I was showing people like how crazy of a ride this is. How many views we're getting. And then today's Thursday. So on Tuesday, I got issued a copyright notice and a takedown order. So this channel filed, I think it's a CDMA. It's a legal filing. It's a copyright filing, saying that I stole their work and tried to use it as my own. I stole their copyrighted property. Now, I can't be any more clear when I do these review videos that these are not my videos. We share it up on the screen. We share it in the content. I link it in the description below the content. I say very clearly that this is this person's work. This is simply my opinion, my commentary of that work. And then commentary is important here in a minute. YouTube did not ask. I mean, now listen, my channel's a tiny channel. I get it, but they didn't ask my side of the story. They didn't. All right. Yeah. So I was close. So see, a fence guy's close. DMCA. So anyway, they didn't ask. They just yanked the video down. Now, this video is like 100,000 views. It was doing well. They yanked it down. They put a copyright strike on the channel, saying that I stole it. Now, here's the thing. When we make these videos, we make them under the fair use standards. And the fair use standards, it depends on which country you're in. So in the United States, it's called fair use. In Canada, so this particular channel that we're talking about is out of Canada. They call it, actually, I have it pulled up right now. They call it fair dealing. So it's fair dealing is an exception to the Canadian Copyright Act that permits use of other people's copyright protected work without permission or payment for the purposes of research, private study, education, satire, parody, criticism, review, or news reporting. The United States version, so the fair use, is instead of review, they call it commentary, which is exactly what we're doing. We're just providing commentary on this work. Anyway, so I reached out to that channel directly, privately, via email, and just said, hey, maybe this was an accident or maybe it's a misunderstanding. I wasn't stealing your work. I wasn't trying to say that your work was my own. I was very clear that this is your work and that it was simply my commentary on your work, which is allowed under the United States fair use and YouTube's own fair use policy. It complies to the standards. That was Tuesday evening that I sent that. Still haven't heard back. So I guess the only other recourse we have is, we'll wait till tomorrow to see. Maybe it takes them a few days to read their emails. And we have to file a counterclaim that no, it's not copyright infringement. I'm not trying to pass off their work as mine own. I created my own content via under the fair use standards. So that's a really long answer. It's long-winded, and I'm sure it's more story than you guys care to hear. But that's why I'm not going to show Nick Nimmin's video because, again, could be, even though it would be my commentary on the channel and it's me positively reviewing it, maybe he would view it as me using his work. So anyway, Nick Nimmin is a channel you should absolutely, if you're a YouTuber, you should absolutely get to know Nick Nimmin's work. That was a wild rabbit hole we just popped out of. So that all started to say the new studio will have, I want to have this like a recording desk, just like this, straightforward. And I want to have a live desk, a different look for you guys. So you're not looking at basically, because this is like the same look that all of my recorded content has, right? So I'd like to give you guys a little change of scenery. I also am playing around with some different intros. So if you guys were here in the beginning, like props to you guys for being here for 2 hours. That's not expected, but I like it a lot and I really appreciate you. Usually in the beginning of these videos, it starts off with, well, here, I'll show you. It starts off with like a countdown, right? Nope, that's not the one. That's the one we use for Ask a Fence Girl Friday. That's the one. So it starts with a countdown timer that looks like this. It runs for 5 minutes. Usually the mic's muted, so you guys don't hear what me just talking about sharing content out on across Facebook. But what I'm thinking about doing, so instead of like you would still see the timer, but instead of just the background of me pointing to the timer, what I want this to be is basically I want you guys to have a live look, like maybe up in the rafters, like a GoPro, looking down like at the studio or something like that. But I'd like to give you guys kind of like a behind the scene look of what's going on in the studio before we go live. If I've got a guest here, like, are we sharing things out? Or are we miking up? Well, we don't mic up anymore because we've got these mics. But like what's going on in the studio beforehand. Maybe leave the mics hot. I don't know if that's interesting to you guys or not, but I don't know. It'd probably be different than just not listening to anything and just viewing a static countdown timer. Might be more interesting. I'd sure like your guys' feedback. So guys, yeah, we got about a half hour left. It's 5 p.m. Central. I've got a hard out at 5:30 because I want to go play with my kiddos and my son misses me. My daughters miss me too, I'm sure. But my son has some blocks that are waiting for me to come build with him. Thomas the Train. If you guys have any questions, fence-related questions or comments, leave them in the comments below. I'd love to help out in this last half hour, to be as much of a value to you guys as I can be. But I'm going to drink some more. It is really dry in here, I guess. Honestly, I think my voice is still recovering from last week. So, like I said, Wednesday, Thursday, I gave back-to-back talks. They're essentially the same talk, just talking about how passionate I am about video and how other home service contractors should be passionate about video too, because it helps them connect with their future clients without having to be in their home or their yard. So in this day of, post-pandemic, if you want to call it post-pandemic, what the landscape looks like. With social distancing and that sort of thing. So video allows us to still be, in the client's living room, but in a socially responsible way. I gave two back-to-back talks. And then that evening, so Thursday evening, Sand Hill experts, Caleb and Ashley, put together a nice meet and greet at a local honky tonk, which was incredibly fun. It was really neat to see. So it was just outside Nashville. So it was completely open. It was nice to do a meet and greet there, but there's live music, or no, it wasn't live music, but there's a DJ, so we were all talking over the DJ, and I lost my voice that night. I finally had to. Actually, I was talking with Steven and Lindsay, and finally said, "I've got to go. I can't hardly talk anymore." And then, but I could still talk a little bit. Stopped by the gas station, went to my hotel, and as I locked my hotel key in the room, and as I'm talking to them, I lost my voice. So. I think we're still recovering from that maybe a little bit. And if there's one thing about me, it's that I like to talk. That's why I do this live, right? Because I like to talk and be of service and hopefully bring value to you guys and what you're up to. So I think we're still recovering from that. Let me go back through the comments and see if I've missed anything. I think we pretty well covered it. If you guys are watching, if you haven't said hi, say hi so I can say hi to you guys. I know that you're here watching me. If we met in Nashville, I might need a little bit of reminding. I met a lot of people there. If you got a question, as always, leave it in the comments. I'd love to help out. Looks like we're pretty well caught up. We talked about the jigs for fence picket height setting. Talked to Kenny Dugan for a little bit. Always like talking to that guy. Talked to Wade Tackney, my father's son, Fence. What a great name. Like from a marketing perspective, I really like that name, my father's son, and a great guy. Talking to this guy, he's a really, really good guy. And we talked about the border fence wall. Yeah, we talked about what type of fence for ball till we fall. Talked to Kevin about convincing his partner to use steel post exclusively. I think that's a smart position from a value perspective. Talked about supply issues we've had in response to COVID. Supply issues, guys, man, I tell you what, it's been crazy. It's new prices every week. You never know who is going to have materials and who isn't. There's one supplier of ours who is notorious for taking an order and then not delivering all of it. They just deliver whatever they have on hand, and they don't tell us what is or is not coming. So it's always a bit of a surprise. But they handle a fair amount of fence material. So we still end up sending them orders. And then we have to figure out who else we need to send orders to finish fulfilling what we need from that order. ZCs, what is up? Oh, I'm not supposed to say what is up anymore. Welcome back. Your consistency is awesome. Thank you. You're very welcome, Z-Seeds. I mean, that's the thing is when we're talking about, YouTube, what YouTube likes, what the algorithm likes to see is it really likes to see consistency, right? So that's why we produce one recorded video each week. Now, YouTube's going to be a little bit confused for a little bit. The algorithm is because it used to be that we would provide or we'd upload content on Wednesdays. We'd have new content available for you guys every Wednesday. We use a service called TubeBuddy. Not sponsored. I pay full price, but I like them a lot. We were looking at the analytics that TubeBuddy provided, and they said, it looking at the data on when people are more likely to view our content or when they do view our content more in relation to days and time of day, Saturday mornings. is when a lot of you guys like viewing the content. So we switched our upload dates to Saturday. Now we did that. I want to say we did that a couple weeks ago. Well, it might have been last week's. Might have been a Bob Vila video. Within the last few weeks, we switched to Saturdays. And so now I think the YouTube algorithm is a little bit confused because they're used to seeing videos every Wednesday. Now they're starting to see them every Saturday. But we still do a live every Thursday when we can from 3 to 5:30. Actually, I want to say we've been able to do it every Thursday. Gosh, how long has it been? 3 or 4 months, maybe every Thursday for the last 3 or 4 months. We've had some wild stuff happen, but we had a water main or a water supply pipe burst here in the office complex that I rent the studio from. So that was interesting a few weeks ago, trying to see about getting everything started up. The building was actually vacant because they had no water. So they said, "Hey, we don't have any bathrooms. The sinks don't work. Just so you know." Like, "Oh, hey guys, I'm here to do a live broadcast, and it starts here in about 20 minutes. So if you wouldn't mind letting me in, I promise not to use the restroom or try to use the sink or anything like that." Yeah, and we've got this big move happening yesterday or tomorrow. I'll be honest, there was a conversation that happened. Do we do this live? The Ask the Expert live Q&A, knowing that tomorrow is the big move. We could have been doing some work. My team members are still doing work while I was gone. So I took a few phone calls during this live, trying to help sort this. Actually, I just took one phone call. We took one with Taylor that I shared with you guys. And that was just Jackson saying, actually, Jackson's upset with me right now. He has caught on that his fishing pole is not the same size as the rest of our fishing pole. We got him, a little Bass Pro fishing pole, a kid's fishing pole. But my daughter and I have, regular size fishing poles. So he's pretty upset that his isn't actual size. And he is a big boy, he tells us. He's 3. So we're going to deal with that going home. But yeah. Anyway, we had the conversation. Do we do the live today or not? And my thing is, you got to be consistent. You got to show up when you say you're going to show up. If you say you're going to do lives every Thursday from 3 to 5:30 Central, you better be there every Thursday from 3 to 5:30 Central. So now I'm not saying that sometimes we don't start these things at 3:02 or 2:58, but we average at starting these at 3 o'clock Central. So. All right, Kenny says, let's talk about staining PPE in regards to spray suits. Hear me out. Orange jumpsuits. Yep. Ozark wood coating corrections on the back with your phone number as the inmate number. Kitty, I like this a lot. So we did look into orange 3M suits, and I forget what the issue with the orange was. There was some issue. So I went to my branding company, the promotions company that makes, if it has Ozark Fence on it, it came from them. What are some good? I actually don't have any examples of Ozark Fence. This is embarrassing, actually. Guys, I don't have any Ozark Fence branded stuff in here. I mean, I got orange stuff. I got like orange card wrappers and stuff. Orange thermos, obviously. But there is not a stitch of Ozark Fence anything. That's embarrassing. But so anyway, the company that makes all the Ozark Fence pins, hats, shirts. What else do they do? Tent pole, like the big tent pole flags. So the easy up tents that say Ozark Fence on them. We have big flags that sit up in the air that say Ozark Fence. This company is Go Promoter. Actually, they make our fence signs. So, Kenny, I know you got one of my fence signs. They made the fence signs. If it's got Ozark Fence branded stuff on it, it came from them. I checked. Anyway, reached out to them and said, hey, I said the same thing. Hear me out. I need orange 3M protective suits. I don't need the heavy ones. I don't need guys dropping out from heat stroke in the summer, but I need some PPE, and I'd like it to be orange. There's some issue with the orange, and I forget what it is. I think they offer it, but it's like it's a really thick, like the heavy duty suits are in orange. So I think that was the issue. So Ozark. So I like the name Ozark Wood Coating Corrections. We call it Ozark Clean and Seal. I like where your mind's going with that, though. phone number for the inmate number. That's what we need, Kenny. Is we need to give people more opportunities to say that we're all inmates. That's exactly what we need. Like I said, that's probably the number one. If that's not the number one comment I get on our YouTube content, that's number two, and it's close. And that's why I created the video, like why I wear orange, because I was tired of typing in the same thing. It's marketing. It's for my business. It actually works really well because it keeps us top of mind with people. So I just created a video. Why do we wear orange? I like where your head's at, though, Kenny. This is why if you guys get a chance to sit down with Kenny Dugan, you need to buy him dinner or buy him a drink or whatever. It will be worth it, because just like the ideas that pour out of Kenny, they're all gold, like period. Blake Brooks, welcome back. Where can non-contractors find postmasters in 10 feet? So that's going to be tricky. Postmasters in general, you can find them, and this varies. Apparently, this varies regionally. So here in our area, Lowe's carries them, but they only carry the 7-foot 6-inch. They don't carry the 10-footers. Now, that being said, a lot of the fence contractors that do buy the postmasters also sell them, because this is a problem. For whatever reason, well, I know the reason. Master Halco doesn't want thousands of clients in a region. They want hundreds of clients, and then they want those hundreds of clients to then retail their product. It makes sense, I guess. But they won't sell to non-fence contractors. Well, that's a point of contention. They'll sell to landscapers, and they'll sell to other folks that also build fence. So that's not exactly true, but for the most part, they only prefer to sell to fence companies. Now, a fence company like ours, and I don't know what area you're in, this is not a sales pitch, but like we sell retail as well. So the same postmasters that will go install at somebody's house, we also sell retail to the public. And we're not unique in that. Usually every market has at least one fence company that also sells fence materials. I do it because we have better materials than a lot of your home improvement stores do. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. And I'm going to do a video on that too, where we weigh a 50-foot roll of 4-foot chain link. We weigh it, see how many pounds of actual material you're getting in a home improvement store roll versus a contractor roll. And I think you'll be surprised at the difference. It's significantly different. But you'll find contractors like us in pretty much every market that sell retail. So what I would do, Blake, is I would reach out. Master Halco has a dealer locator on their website. I would use that dealer locator to find contractors in your area that Master Halco says are their clients, and then ask them if they sell retail. And they might not stock the 10-footers. So the 10-footers, especially this time of year, and I say this time of year just because we're not building a ton of fence, not as much fence as we'll build in peak season. Although this week has been unreal as far as leads and contracts. But contractors typically probably won't be carrying 10-footers right now, but they can get them. If someone were to call my office and say, well, actually, we have a couple bundles of 10-footers on hand right now, but even if we didn't, if someone called and said, hey, I need 32 10-foot Postmaster posts, I could place an order with Master Halco for 32 of these posts, and then they'll deliver them. In my market, they deliver once a week. Other markets, they deliver twice a week, or if it's a market that they're in, they allow for pickup. They'll do will call pickup. So, but if it's in my market, then they'll be on next week's truck if they have them in stock. I haven't heard of an issue of them having stocking issues with 10-footers. They had stocking issues with 8-footers for a little while, but even that's been resolved. So, and again, it probably depends on which region, what area you're in, but you shouldn't have an issue getting 10-footers. So go to the Master Halco dealer locator, find all the dealers in your area, reach out to them, figure out which one of them sells retail, and then you can order them through them, or they might have them in stock. So I hope that helps. Welcome back, Bo. Bo H says, what is the advantage or disadvantage of putting your stringers on the inside face or face of the 4x4? All right. So actually, this came up in the Bob Vila video. So this is also going to vary regionally. Now, our finish side, or as Bob Vila calls it, the beauty side, faces out. It's standard for our area. Some municipalities require it. Some homeowners association or property owner association, either or, also require it to face out. Now, there are some very adamant followers of this channel that say that it should face in, or else you're taking advantage of your client or customer. I think that takes it a little bit too far. But their point being, hey, if they paid for it, they should see the nice side. Let everyone else see the structure side. My issue with that, if it's a 6-foot fence, it has 3 stringers. It should have 3 stringers, top, middle, bottom, that are a perfect height to use like a ladder and climb straight over that fence. Now, if the finished or beauty side is facing out, well, now you have a 6-foot tall, smooth surface all the way down. It's going to make it significantly harder to climb that thing. Now, when you get in, it will make it easier to get out, but it makes it harder for anyone to get in. I would say that would be the advantage of, so the disadvantage of putting stringers inside. I think I'm reading your question right. Do you put the beauty side in or out? Stringers in or out? We always put the stringers in, put the beauty or finish side out. I think it looks nicer personally, and that's probably just because I've been raised here and that's what I'm used to seeing. And in some municipalities require it anyway. And from a security purpose, it also makes it harder for people to get in. The stringers, the 2x4s, it'd be really easy for someone to climb in. So I hope that was your question, Bo. I think it was. If it wasn't, go ahead and type a follow-up. We got about 15 minutes left. I think that's right. And about 14 minutes left, so we're coming up on it. All right. Blake, you're very welcome. If you got another question, we got just a few more minutes. Be happy to help you. Okay, so clarification. I misunderstood. I apologize, Bo. Bo says in between the 4x4s versus on the face. All right. So I was brought up building on the face. We'll start there. And I understand that people were brought up to put it in between. I'm of the opinion that it's structurally stronger on the face of the fence than it is on in between the post. I was trying to see. Yeah, so here was your original question. Was advantage or disadvantage putting your stringers on the inside or face of the 4x4? So if you're running if you have your post and you're running your 2x4, if you're running your 2x4 into the middle of that post, so not on the face where you can run nails or screws, whichever is your preference, through the meat of the 2x4 into the meat of the post. If your 2x4, if your stringer is coming straight into the middle of that post, you're going to have to, we call it toenail. There's pocket screw. There's a lot of other terms for this, but to go in at an angle through the rail into the post, probably on either side, I have to think that you're not getting as much meat of the 2x4. Really, you're relying on the corner of that. If it's at a 45-degree angle, you're counting on the corner of that 4x4 to hold it up. I have to think that's not as structurally strong. I say that, like, I hesitate to say that because I haven't built fence that way. Like, I'm not familiar with the building practices. I watched it being built. I watched the YouTube videos on it, on guys building it this way. And I know there's guys that are passionate about that disagree with my assessment, and that's fine. There are more than one way to build a fence. But my opinion would be that it'd be a weaker fence. Now, should we do testing on that? Probably. I think it'd probably be a great idea. How would we do that? We would set 4 posts, 2 sets of 2. On one, we would have a section that is face nailed. On the other, we would have one that's inset. What would you call that? What did you? I don't know what the terminology for that is. I call it maybe face nailed or inset nailed, and then see how much strength it takes to separate that. I guess. I don't know. Developing the testing would be interesting. To develop a testing procedure for that. This is going to be kind of in line though with testing. So I want to test nails versus screws versus scrales. Scrales being a screw that you can shoot through a nail gun. I want to test the strength of all these, and so we're kind of creating. My sister's fiance is he's a civil engineer, structural engineer, but he's an engineer. He's got his mind for weight loads and structure loads and creating testing for that. So he and I are going to kind of work together on a testing procedure to test the, maybe the shear strength or the pull strength of the nail versus screw versus scrail. So I'll put it to him too to see if he can think of putting a testing procedure together for testing the strength of face nailed or face screwed. So actually, there should probably be two sets of testing: nail versus screw, face nail or face screw versus inset nail or inset screw. It'd be interesting to see the results in that. As a guy that builds, when we were using wood posts, we would face nail. That's how I was raised. That's how I've always built fence. That's what I know and I'm comfortable with. So that is my preference. And thinking it through, I have to think it's structurally stronger. But I don't know, man. I mean, that's if you get a guy on here that builds inset, he's probably got a whole host of reasons why inset's the choice instead of face nail. I mean, it's sometimes it's 6 one, half dozen another, So you're very welcome. Guys, we got 10 minutes. 10-minute warning, actually 9-minute warning. And then I'm out of here. So we'll do last call on questions, comments. Oh, hit that button again. You're very welcome, Bo. Last call for questions and comments. If not, we'll go ahead and cut this thing off. We'll go ahead and end this broadcast. I can get home and build Thomas a train engine blocks with the boy. Guys, there's 13 of you watching. I know I haven't been talking to 13 of you. So if you're listening in your car, you're watching and maybe listening to it in the background, drop me a comment. Let me know you're watching. I was talking to Divine Fence at Stainless Steel Experts, and he had shared with me, actually they both shared with me, that they found me by listening to me in their car on the way home. If that's you guys, grab the phone if it's safe. I'm not asking you to take your attention from the road. I don't want to be responsible for car wrecks here, but if it's safe, grab that phone and let me know you're here by saying hi. Like I said, there's 11 of you watching, but it doesn't tell me who's watching. I'd sure like the opportunity to say hi to you guys. I like to know who's watching and who to say hi to. We'll give you guys, like I said, last call warning, and then All right, guys, this is a great example. So this is a buddy of mine that's got a fence company. He's doing exactly what I'd said. He's doing just a project walkthrough. It's probably hard to see. This is actually on his Snapchat. He's doing a project walkthrough. Looks like he just got done. I don't have the sound on, but looks like he just got done with either an aluminum or a steel ornamental fence. Walking the customers through what the finished project looks like, talking about what to expect. I'm a huge fan of this concept. It's not a new concept, guys. You guys have been doing it forever. Project walkthroughs, right? Steven talked about doing the pre-project walkthrough. I'm a big fan of doing a post-project walkthrough on video. Doing it live so that you're not worried about editing and uploading and all that. Do it live. Hey guys, Joe Ozark Fence. I tell you who does this well, and I talked about this in my speeches and my talks. Is John with Stony Creek Fence. Hey, Roger. Thank you. You're the man. Roger's been here the whole time, buddy. I appreciate you. I made a point in the beginning to say, hey, at 5:30. I got to get out here. It's family time, and I need you guys to remind me. Roger, you are the man. You are on the ball. I appreciate you coming on this journey to tie it back in with your earlier comment. I appreciate that. But anyway, guys, so what John Bowdy with Stony Creek Fence, he's over in Indianapolis, the Indianapolis area. He does a live project walkthrough where he says, hey, guys, this is John Bowdy with Stony Creek Fence. We just got done building this 6-foot cedar privacy fence here in insert neighborhood name. I want to bring you along on my final project walkthrough to show you guys what I'm looking for in a fence. I'm looking for missing nails. I'm looking for rocks. I want you to be my eyes also, because sometimes I'm human. Sometimes I miss stuff. Come along and let's look at this. And so he walks the fence and he's just saying, hey, here's what I'm looking for. Actually, the last one I watched him do, he's done one since I didn't get to watch yet. But the one I think he did it yesterday was he went through an ornamental job and he was like, all right, so he picked up, you guys know those blocks they use on ornamental aluminum when they stack them, that way they're spacers. So he's like, all right, so occasionally we find these in the yard. My guy should have found it first. I'm glad I was here doing the walkthrough. So this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, spacers that the guys might have missed. I'm making sure the gates work. I'm making sure it follows the train, and making sure on and on, right? He's sharing with his potential future clients exactly what he's looking for when a fence is done. So they know what to expect. And they know when their project's done, John Bowdy's Stony Creek Fence is going to be at their property doing it live as he does a walkthrough. So he's going to be paying attention, and he's going to have a whole host of people watch his live, and they're going to be paying attention too. I think this is evil genius. I really do. Not evil genius. I think it's genius. I think it's a great concept, and it's easy. If you're not comfortable on being on camera, great. Start with the camera facing away from you. I mean, they'll still hear your voice. The audio will still work. And just take your clients through a journey on what it looks like to wrap up a project, so that they know that you show up and inspect each job, and they know what you're looking for. I think that format is incredibly powerful. I think it's meaningful. Oh, Kenny, you said it first. I'm sorry. As always, good info. Go home and enjoy your family. Kenny, I appreciate you. Guys, we're going to wrap this up. 5:26. We're actually going to wrap this up a little bit early. I appreciate you guys sticking along on this journey. Right? I appreciate you guys showing up each week, watching the lives, and being a part of the channel. I mean, guys, here's the thing. This is just as much your channel as it is mine. I just happen to be the guy behind the camera. I'm the guy that's in the room by himself talking to a camera right now. But this is just as much your channel as it is mine. You guys help build this channel to what it is by asking great questions and giving me content ideas on what videos we could be shooting later. So I consider you guys part of the Fence Fan, and I appreciate you helping me build this channel, one video at a time. But for now, I'm Joe Everest, the fence expert, reminding you that good fences make good neighbors. And I hope you have a great evening.